My name is Sara Eydmann. I am 30 and I'm currently based in Edinburgh in Scotland, but I am moving next month, hopefully, if all goes well, to France. I am an ultramarathon runner and my day job is I'm a counsellor, so counsellor and therapist that I qualified for last year, so still just up and coming with that. And my other kind of tick boxes, like I've got two cats, I'm a cat mom, and I'm neurodivergent as well. So I got late diagnosed with autism and ADHD. So that's kind of my brief summary of who I am as a person.
And did you grow up in Edinburgh? Do you grow up in Scotland?
So I grew up in Scotland, but I was in Fife, which is just like a half an hour drive from Edinburgh. So outside the city, but still Scotland, still very close.
Were you quite active as a child? Like, did you come from a sporty family? Did you have any siblings? Have you always sort of been into running or sport or fitness?
So I'm an only child. So I did do a lot of different sports. I was always outside playing in the street back in the day. You just got put outside and that's what you did. You played. And I was always I was sporty. My family were sporty. However, I was very much average at everything. So I did do athletics for a year and a half and I was in the bottom pack. And I did do long distance, but long distance then was 800 to 1500 meters. And I just obviously need a good 10K warm up. However, when I was 14, I had to stop all activity because I have suffered from an eating disorder and it got to the stage where I wasn't allowed to exercise. So that kind of put a stop to my sporting journey, shall we say, of any kind of competitive nature. And it just kind of got into a different competition with an eating disorder almost. So I still was doing exercise, but just not for the right reasons or structured.
When did you get to the point where you were able to sort of return to exercise, I suppose, in a more balanced way? So it was more connected to emotionally like feeling good rather than, I suppose, trying to control your body.
I would probably say only in the last year and a half that I have started to really embrace it for different reasons. When I was training for my first marathon and things like that, it was still very much a kind of driven compulsion. And whilst I still have my need for exercise, it is very much structured now and I listen to my coach a lot more. I don't overtrain really at all now. I'm very much structured in what I do and there is still that voice in my head, but I'm very much performance driven now rather than this is to lose weight or anything like that. It's very performance based.
So I think that's so interesting, sort of getting the recognition. It's like, oh, actually, I do need to be really structured with this so that I
Hmm.
don't overtrain and get the balance. And I suppose I'd love to hear more about that aspect. Was that working with a therapist, with your coach? Is that something that you recognized early on or something that you needed sort of more support with? And what did that support take, or what did that support look like?
I think when I moved coaches, the coach I've got now kind of sets my planning and I trust him with what we do. And I've also had results from the planning. So I try and just really stick to exactly what he gives me. I've also done therapy throughout the years for many, many, many years. However, I don't really feel like the therapy impacted the change of mindset and activity. I do feel like it was my coach being very structured of like, this is too much. You won't be able to perform. You're going to get injured. This is the pattern that you're going through. And I do find myself often wanting to do a lot more than what's programmed, but I don't let myself because I know if I do one session more than what's programmed, then that one session will lead to two sessions and two sessions will lead to three sessions. So I'm really mindful and my coach is good at keeping an eye on what I'm doing. So it's useful.
So if we go back sort of a few years when you sort of said, you were doing the long distance, but the long distance was like sort of the 800 to 1500. And then when did you start, I suppose, progressing in your running or wanting to run longer distances or to be out there for longer?
It was when I was like 12 to 14, I did the 800 and 1500 meters. And then I stopped completely because I wasn't allowed to exercise for a long time. And then I got into running again. And again, I'm always so honest about this because people ask me what my running background is, and I'm like, do you know what? I was doing it to lose weight. Like I was only running to control my weight. And over lockdown, it got really quite intense, shall we say. I was very enthusiastic about running long and far. And I'd set myself up with like, I want to do a marathon, as a lot of us do. And I had signed up for a marathon. I signed up for 5 times and I only made it onto the start line in 2023. So I just had loads of anxiety and things about actually getting on the start line. However, I did make it in 2023 and then I just loved it. I was like, this is great. And so I signed up for an ultra the month after. Literally no idea what I was doing. It was a 6-hour loop course, so it was a safe one. I knew I wasn't going to get stuck anywhere. And I still like thought my other job was a group fitness instructor, so I still went in the morning to teach my body combat and body pump. And then I went and done this 6-hour race at night. And again, I loved it. And from there on, I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. Like it gave me a reason to train properly, basically.
You mentioned, you'd signed up for a few marathons, but sort of your anxiety sort of really sort of
Mhm.
stopped you from getting to those start lines. I suppose what was the journey with your anxiety? Like, how did you manage those feelings and emotions to actually get you to the start line? What helped you to get to the start line?
I think one, I didn't tell anybody apart from my parents. And also I'd had so much going on in 2023 that it was a very much like, let's just do it. Who cares? Just do it. I've had a load of rubbish at work. I got my autism diagnosis. There was just so much going on. And I was just like, do you know what? Let's just try and see. Like, it doesn't matter. And it was just almost that like, I hate the word surrendering because it just seems so cheesy, but like surrendering to it and being like, okay, well, let's just try. It's just for you. Doesn't matter what happens. So much other bad stuff is going on. Like, what's the worst thing that happens? You don't finish it. Oh well, it's fine. You know what I mean? You get injured, well, it's fine. You've been injured for months. So that was kind of my mindset shift. And yeah, thank God I got there.
That also seems really powerful as well. Like just being at that point where you're just like, ugh, like it's almost like you're just so over everything. It's
Hmm.
like, what's the worst that can happen? And like I love the fact that that's actually like something that you can use. So you got to the start line at 2023 for your first marathon. Which marathon was it? And I suppose take us back to that time. And was there anything that you were doing on this? Were you listening to music? Did you have like headphone blockers on? What were you doing to manage your feelings and emotions?
So it was a tiny, tiny marathon in Scotland called Kinlochrannig Marathon, which is round a loch in Scotland. Shock. And that was one of the reasons I think I made it to the start line because it was up in like beautiful nature and it was tiny. I think there was like under 200 participants, whereas the previous ones I signed up to were all Edinburgh Marathon, which is massive. And I ran, I think, from 8 miles completely myself. I ran the full marathon myself. That's how small it was. And I did have music on. I think I turned it off at points. I was just having honestly, I had a great day out. I was taking pictures. It was not a competitive marathon like speedy. I wasn't going all out to an extent, but it was just such a good positive experience for me. And I do wonder if I'd maybe done it at Edinburgh or whatever and had that massive start, I would have had a lot of anxiety. But there was just something different about it. And I think for me as well, like Loch Rannoch, I used to go as a kid. It's in nature, it's away from people, and I'm not amazing with people. So that made a massive difference, I think.
And do you know what? Thank you for sharing that because I think sometimes maybe people can almost be locked into think, well, a marathon only counts if it's a marathon like it's London, Manchester, or
Hmm.
like one of the in air quotes one of the big ones. But actually, the big ones may not be right for you. So actually, finding a more local, a smaller one where you're a bit more familiar with it is actually such a great starting point. You said as well that you were diagnosed with, now did you say AUDHD?
Yeah, AUDHD, so like autism and ADHD.
Would you mind sharing a bit more about how that maybe impacted your life? Because obviously you were obviously you've gone through all your teenage years without this and then sort of
Hmm.
later on in your life being diagnosed. What does that actually mean? How did it change things for you?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed with autism when I was 27 and ADHD when I was 29. So it's still quite new to me. And I mean, it's affected my entire life in ways that I still don't know and still don't understand. But I think the way that it manifested for me coping was through an eating disorder. And that is how I muddled through life, I guess. But I think I found school really difficult in some ways because of, the social aspect, the sensory aspect I didn't know. I found as an adult, again, the social aspect, the expectations, the kind of workplace drama and politics that I just can't be bothered with. Really difficult to navigate at times. And my kind of, I don't really have a perception of authority. Like, I'll respect you if you respect me, but if you're however high up the chain, just because you have a label or a name badge, it doesn't mean anything to me, and that gets me in trouble. um, but I will speak my mind, and I think getting my diagnosis for me allowed me to start to understand things, and it did change the way I viewed myself and viewed where I'm going with my life and my decisions. And I've lost friends because they didn't really like me speaking up for myself or like recognizing my needs. Because I'm like, well, I know now more what I need or what boundaries I can set. And people didn't always like that change. I definitely found more confidence in my voice and also my confidence to voice other people's needs. Um, so yeah, I think it's had a massive impact on so many things. And now I'm trying to use that impact as on how I understand myself and my environment and how I can shape that to fit me and then use my experiences to help other people as well.
Yeah. You took on an amazing running challenge called Running the North Coast 500. Would you like to share more about that challenge, what it was, how the idea came about?
Yes, so I needed something bigger than I needed a big goal basically to achieve a lot of my little goals because I'd got myself into such a rut, especially over that horrible period of lockdown. And I needed a big reason to kind of get my world big again because I did struggle in the transition. I actually was injured when I came up with this idea. It's only a runner that comes up with the idea when they can't run off what they're going to do. I had a stress fracture in my knee and was on crutches, and then I was like, I'm going to run 500 miles. So I'd seen that I couldn't find a documented female who'd done it. It turns out there is somebody who has ran it. However, she was self-supported and her trackers ran it, which is devastating. So there has been a female that has achieved it, but I couldn't find a documented female. There was three documented males, and most of it's cyclists. So I just thought, well, why not? And my issue is once I have an idea, that's it. I'm going to do it. So I remember just being like, "Okay, I'm gonna run 500 miles." And I had, a race called Glasgow to Edinburgh in October, and everyone was like, "Let's just focus on that first." So I started to build up my ultra experiences just with local races, nothing major, around Glasgow to Edinburgh, and then it was like, "Okay, let's knuckle down and try and run 500 miles." And I wasn't just going for the female record, I wanted to get the overall record because I believed I was capable of it, to be honest, and I still believe I'm capable of it, but I found a lot of the kind of admin stuff quite stressful because it's when you take on a challenge like that, it's not just the running side of it, it is everything that goes around it financially, logistically. It's a lot. And I was still finishing off my postgrad, so I also don't think it was the correct time, but never mind. Everything in hindsight, and I made the best of what I could in the situation. So the running route is 516 miles with 10,000 meters of elevation round the north coast of Scotland, and it is all on road, which I think doesn't help your bones when you do it. So yeah, I took that on in June, and unfortunately, I got injured and got a stress fracture. 256 miles, we called it. My coach called it, but it was it was such an experience, and I took away so many learnings, especially regarding like my sensory profiles and stuff. So it was an incredible journey, and it is unfortunate the outcome, but it's one that I'm very grateful that I did.
Let's just take it back one step. So, because I love it when I also find that I work better when I've got like a big goal to work towards. I feel as though when I've got like an adventure or an event or something coming up, it just means everything else almost becomes easier. Getting out of bed in the morning, making sure I'm going to the gym, doing my training, what I'm eating, how I'm fueling, making sure I'm hydrated, I'm good on my supplements, I'm better on my recovery, I become more productive because I know I've only got certain hours in the day to get things done. But let's go to like that admin and finding that sort of quite stressful, especially around like the financials and the logistics. How did you manage that? How did you make that work for you with your autism and ADHD? Like, does that make you super focused? Does that make you a good planner? Are you to-do list? What were your strategies that you used to help you plan this event?
Yeah, I find that my autism and ADHD completely collide at points, and I had so many spreadsheets and to-do lists, and then the ADHD would come in and just like destroy it all, and I'd be like, "Oh no, like we know what we're meant to be doing here. Why are we not doing it?" And again, it's that learning of actually the runner. I probably shouldn't be the one doing all this planning. It should be trying to find the funding to then employ somebody to help me do it. But it was stressful in the fact that I wasn't getting receptive sponsorship from anyone. So I think that added in a whole other layer of stress. And I was struggling to focus because all I wanted to do really was train and just get myself into the best possible position for the project. It was making it frustrating that I was getting stressed about a lot of pointless things, not pointless things, obviously very important things, but not really what my job was. My job was to be the runner. Um, but then it wasn't a job because I wasn't getting paid for it. So it was incredibly stressful. And I think for me, a lot of the learnings was how I communicate with people. If I was to do it again, I would break everything down differently. I would ask for different help. I'd actually ask for way more help from people this time round. My crew would have a real understanding of my needs and my expectations, I think. And I didn't know what my needs and expectations would be going into this. So I think, I mean, that goes for anybody, not just anyone that's neurodivergent, but you learn so much about yourself and also so much about others in this kind of high stress, high performance situation that allows you to, yeah, do it differently, I guess. It just is a bit rubbish that I didn't succeed the first time round and I'll have to do it again at some point.
Roughly how much was this costing you to do? And also, what was the method? So you mentioned that you had a crew. Like, how many people were part of the crew? Did you have a van? Was your plan to do it continuous, literally just to do the 560 miles in one go? Or what was, I suppose, like your strategy? Was it run for 18 hours, sleep for 6 hours? What did that side of things look like? What plan had you put in place?
Yeah, so I mean, financially, it cost me far more than I thought it would cost, and I don't know the full breakdown, but costs just come on left, right, and center, and then you start working with specialists, and that costs more, and you start branching out, and that costs more, and yeah, I mean, you could just go and do it with somebody, I guess, really cheaply, but I was trying to do it the best way I could. I don't have an exact cost, but far more than I thought it would, and I am still very much rebuilding my savings, let's put it that way. With the crew, we had 2 motorhomes. My dad was in a motorhome, which was mainly just to be floating about. However, it came in very useful. And then we had the main motorhome, and then there was a car. And some of the stories of the crew are definitely not mine to tell, or not something I feel comfortable talking about yet. But the structure was that I was going to run from 5 a.m. till midnight, have an hour to get ready, wind down, 3 hours asleep or vertical. No, horizontal. I spent 19 hours vertical. There we go. And then an hour to get myself up, ready, get going, get breakfast, and leave. That was the plan. However, day one, so I was going to have a bike with me the entire time. And the idea was that I would stop every 2 hours at the motorhome, but I would just get like fuel and stuff from the bike. However, we had horrendous gale force winds and rain on the first day, and it was just not safe for the bike to be going as slow as I was running. From I think under 6 hours in, we had to take the bike off the road. It just wasn't safe. It was horrendous weather. So then it meant I was stopping at the motorhome maybe half an hour to get drinks or whatever, which did obviously add up. And I had a lot of stomach issues and everything. But it's all these things that you can't foresee all these things. Like I thought I had foreseen them, but I didn't I'm not a cyclist, so I didn't realize at some point with the weather and the speed that I was going at that a bike wouldn't be able to stay with me and all these kind of things. So yeah, it was logistically challenging, but my coach was brilliant. He'd done so much of the logistics. Like while we were running, he was like, "Okay, well, we'll just adapt." He was very much the adapter, which was amazing.
One of the lines that you said was you wanted it to be like your job to be the runner. Like all you had to focus on was the running. So let's almost focus in on that. So when you're running, what does it look like inside your head? Are you thinking? Are you not thinking? Are you listening to podcasts and music? Are you doing mantras? Are you doing body checks every 15, 20 minutes? What does it look like when you're out there? Because you know, you still ran a huge, huge distance and in very tough weather conditions as well. Yeah, just take us back to when you are out there running. What is happening?
Yeah, so day one, I think I was quite chipper on day one, to be honest. I was having a really good time, apart from the weather was horrific. However, it was very much, well, I've got a job to do, just get your head down and get on with it. So I think I had my audiobooks on at some point. I don't think I had podcasts on. Maybe I had a podcast on at one point, but I had my music on, audiobooks, and then a lot of times I was just running in silence really, and just kind of being in my own head. And then day two, I was still going pretty good on day two. I just had a horrendous stomach and the weather was again horrific. And actually what I found adding music or anything in was adding to the sensory aspect of it all, because the wind and the rain was so much that then adding on something on top of that was just even more sensory issues. So there was a lot of times where if it hadn't been so windy and rainy, I think I would have had headphones on more, but I just was like, I can't do it. But I did always have them really in my ears because I wanted to block out the traffic a tiny bit because you were running on the road. So yeah, and then at day three, I was counting. I was doing this thing, and I still found myself doing it now as I count to 32, and I just restart. But it was so I could keep my walking pace because by that point my leg had gone, so I was like walking, and so I could keep my pace up. I was just counting really fast, so I would take a step every number. But I'd only count to 32. And I don't know why I stopped at 32 because that's a lot of 32s. um, but yeah, that's kind of what I was going through. And then the race I'm prepping for just now, like I'm learning to speak French. So when I'm out doing long runs or like I know when it gets tough in this race, I'll be going through like my French words with me. I sometimes do like writing blog posts in my head, or I just say over and over, like, you've got this, you can do this, like, you're fine, just get on with it, like, you can do this. They're probably my two, like, main go-tos is, like, you've got this and you are fine, like, you are safe, you are fine, just keep going.
Do you hit the wall? Do you, like, I don't want to make assumptions in my head. I'm just thinking, no. The focus, the dedication, the determination, that I suppose that drive that you have in yourself, which is, you know, that you've almost tried to that you're trying to sort of balance as well to make sure that it comes right. I mean, obviously, you got a stress fracture in this case, and you did need to stop. I'm sort of getting the sense that if there was no injury, that you would just not stop. You can just keep on going.
Yeah, I think I just would have kept walking, because I did walk for a day and a half. I would say I've hit the wall physically at points. Like I've had a really bad back at one point a few years ago, and again it was my body literally gave up on me, and I was lying on the floor like, okay, I think we're done. Mentally, I don't want to say no because I've got a race in a week, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll find my wall then. But I would say mentally, I have lost my head at points, but I haven't actually hit a wall where I would stop. Like your head does go, but it's not been enough to make me go, okay, I'm done.
When you say lost my head, what does that mean? Does that mean that you've almost like completely just zoned out, or you're not even consciously thinking anymore. It's just like you're not out of body, but yeah, what does that mean? Lost my head.
To me, and again, this sounds so dramatic and a bit deep, so I apologize, but it's more, it's like I start going into a trauma response almost, and I would say that that's when I would classify I've lost my head. It's when I'm not really a rational human being anymore. But again, that comes with the nature of ultra or endurance when you're sleep deprived and things. And again, it's just how you communicate that and how your crew responds to that as well, I think. It can come out in a trauma response, and but that's only happened once and I was really tired. So
I suppose it's also interesting as well because if your crew is maybe not as experienced or has maybe never seen somebody who that they know and love and care about pushing themselves so physically hard and like emotion everything, putting everything on the line. I've had a friend who was running on a treadmill, like going over 500 miles, and I went and joined her for a little section. And when I say it's one of the hardest things I've ever witnessed, what I mean by that was it wasn't because it was physically hard. It was because when you know somebody that you care about is pushing themselves in so much pain, it becomes so uncomfortable. Even though you know this is what they want, it can be quite difficult, I think, as a crew member to almost manage those emotions. Like, I can't even imagine what it would be like for your dad, like seeing his daughter.
oh, he was brilliant. He was just like, "Ah, let her get on with it, she'll be grand.
She's
She's
fine.
fine.
She's
She's
fine.
fine. She does this. She's alright. Don't worry about it." Yeah, because I was very worried about that actually with my dad, and he was a really grounding presence, I'd say, for not just myself, but the crew as well, to know that, she's fine. Like, she has a little bit of a tantrum and she's fine. She can have this kind of response at a point and she will, like, it was about food, so I'd just kind of had enough. I was like, "Well, I don't wanna eat. No, I'm done." Like, and it's just that past history coming out. I stopped because I'm so tired. And I knew probably give me 2 hours and I'd be fine. I'd be like, "Okay, we're back. We're okay." So having my dad there was actually really reassuring. However, yeah, you just don't know how you're gonna respond. Like, I think I would find crew duties I wouldn't be able to do one of that magnitude because I know I would be a big softie and be like, "It's okay, don't worry about it. Like, you're okay." I'm hardcore enough to put myself through it, but I'm not hardcore enough to watch somebody go through it, I don't think.
Yeah. I think I'm too empathetic. I
Mhm.
literally would feel like even if I watch somebody in like, if you're like watching like somebody trips or something,
Oh,
it's like my
I know.
heart palpitates and I'm literally like it's like I feel their pain. And so I think I just end up crying
Yeah.
to let my yeah to try space to let my emotions and my feelings out for myself completely different. Like I, not that I don't care that much about myself, but it's easier to, I suppose, block off your
Mhm.
um own receptors. But one of the things that I really enjoyed reading is you wrote sort of a blog post for autisticgirlsnetwork.org. And on that blog post, you shared sort of more about, trying to run 500 miles as an AUDHDer and around the sensory experience of that. But you also talked about, I suppose, your fears before taking on this challenge. I'd love for you just maybe talk a little bit more about those fears and what plans you put in place to manage those things?
Yes, I'd had a lot of fears about, again, about kind of having a meltdown or about having a shutdown where I can't speak to anyone or having a panic attack or, having a trauma response, etc. And literally all the fears came true. So it was like, okay. And I think now going again, I'm like, okay, well, literally everything came true and no one died. We're still alive. Okay. And I think for me, it was like I was fearful of how people would react if I showed them my quote unquote like true self, not the masked self, because I thought at some point I am probably not going to have the energy to mask and I'm not going to have the energy to hold everything in like I normally do. I also don't have a space where I can just go in. Obviously, I was running, so I could have I had the whole world essentially to let go, but there wasn't a space that I could go to. Like my flat is very much my little sanctuary that I come home and I can just decompress in. And one, there wouldn't be time to do that because, you know, you're on a clock. And two, I knew like when I did go, um, I'd be in a motorhome, etc. And I also knew that my needs might not necessarily match up to those of the crew. So while I was, you know, maybe having a meltdown or whatever, they might want to approach it one way, and I would be like, no, I need this, I need like space. Whereas a lot of people when they're in that situation, they do need a hug or they do need people there. But I'm like, if I'm having a bit of a meltdown or a shutdown, if you come near me and say anything, it feels like you're screaming in my head. Like it feels like you're screaming at me rather than comforting me. So I think it's very much balancing the needs of you versus your crew as well. And yeah, my fear was that yeah, that kind of wouldn't be navigated amazingly. And we did. We all navigated it to the best of our abilities. That's the thing with this. It was navigated exactly to the best of our abilities. And it's just interesting how I responded in that moment, whereas I had hoped I would have more communication skills at points. And again, it was troubleshooting. Like I had been very clear to my crew, this could happen. This is what happens possibly on a daily, you know, like in my daily life. This is a risk that happens, and just kind of preparing them for that as best I could, I guess.
You you mentioned that you were learning, learning French and that you're in about a month's time, you're actually going to be moving over to France. Could you share more about that?
Yeah, so I am moving to France, all being well with visas, for a year. I went on holiday there for a week and I fell in love. I felt like a different person. And I now have a support network that really supports me and going like, well, why not? Why not just try it? Like, what's the worst that happens? You come home. Okay. So again, logistically for my autism and ADHD, it's a lot. It's a lot for anyone, to be fair. However, similar to the NC 500, I've put my mind to this, and yeah, I'm going to go to France and run for just run and try and really focus on my training and see what I can do and how maybe good I can get. But also for me, it's a lot of, again, it sounds so cheesy, but like healing time, like off my brain and changing my environment and being somewhere that is also sunny more. I realized how much the Scottish winters affect me, and it's going, well, you know, I can sit and stay in the cycle I'm in and complain, or I don't complain often, but you know, I can be a bit miserable and my mental health is not as good as it could be, or I can try and make a change, and I'm going to make that change now and see. It might not be the right change, but I'm going to try and make a change. So yeah,
Whereabouts in France are you moving to?
so I'm moving to the Pyrenees.
Amazing.
So yeah, the sunny side, and yeah, I'm going to be like staying at like where I'll be staying is in altitude, and it's a ski resort, so the trails are fantastic. I can't wait. It's just going to be amazing.
Yeah. Last summer, I walked or hiked the length of the Pyrenees mountain range, and it is just such a beautiful, stunning part of the world. And being in the mountains and that fresh air, that mountain air, and honestly, don't measure like cloudy, grey, harsh winters. They really do affect you. Like when I say you, I mean like me as well. They do affect
Hmm.
people, whether it's like lack of vitamin D, lack of sunshine, lack of being outdoors, lack of that endorphins. So I think that is absolutely fantastic. So this year then you're going to focus in on your training, on your running. And is this basically you've given yourself like 12 months to, I suppose, to get a profession, to become professional, to get supported, to get paid? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I guess so. Of doing that and to see what I can do and starting to build that. But yeah, essentially this year will be all in and see what I can do. And if at the end of the year you go, it doesn't work, you go, okay, well I'll do it. It's still a fun hobby, but that's okay if it's a fun hobby. Like
So you mentioned that there's like maybe like a bit of a support network out there. So when you're out there sort of running and training, have you already connected with other sort of trail runners? Are you going to be continuing to work with your coach over there? Have you figured out that aspect to make sure that you get the balance of running and training and fueling and socializing and when you're over there? Have you sort of thought a bit about that?
yeah, so I think I've been doing a lot of like obviously research and things, but I am quite an introvert, so I am pretty okay with just porting about. That being said, my hope is to learn French fluently to an extent. I'm finding it very hard though. It's a hard language. But yeah, I'm hoping to obviously like immerse myself almost in the culture and just experience that different. way of being. And then support wise, I will be continuing on with my coach. He is online, which is fantastic. So I can do that and I can really navigate that with him. And he is also, luckily, he is also Scottish, but he's also moved to France. So he's only going to be about an hour away from me, which is fantastic. And I know another few people that are dotted about in France, but yeah, I'm just going to go and take the leap, and I'm sure I'll meet people there maybe. Like a lot of runners go where I'm going, so I'm hoping that I'll meet some people out there, I guess, and just having a total fresh start, like just kind of going for it.
So I love that. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Sarah, where are you most active on social media? How can people follow along with your running journey, with your journey of moving to France? Where can they connect with you?
So probably Instagram is the most active place that I have. It's literally just my name, Sara Eydmann. And I am every time I go, I plan on doing more YouTube. So you never know, by the time this goes out, there might be a little YouTube series of moving to France. That might be my plan. And I am hoping to write more on Substack as well. So again, all of these are just my name because I do not have a common name, which is handy. So Substack as well.
I love that. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the Tough Girl podcast. And I'd love for you to leave our listeners with your final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women who also want to take the leap, whether that's taking the leap into running, moving to a different country, taking on a new challenge or new adventure. Apart from just do it, what words would you like to share?
The phrase I like to go by is trust the process, don't fear the outcome. Because you will learn where you need to be through the process, and your outcome might be completely different. If you said at the start of this year or last year even, you're going to move to France, I would have laughed in your face. But I had just trusted that, the NC didn't work out. Oh well, okay, we're just trusting the process, and by not fearing the outcome, you're not limiting yourself to one outcome. So that would be my key advice.
Trust the process. Sarah, thank you so much for trusting the process. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, with me on the Tough Girl podcast, and just best of luck with this next year, these next 12 months. I'm so excited to follow along with your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Hey tribe, I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Sarah. Now, as we talked about during that episode, Sarah is in the process of moving over to France, and I can let you know that her first vlog has gone live. So do go and give her a follow on YouTube, and you can follow her journey of moving across to France and living her best life over there, doing ultra running, spending time in the outdoors, in the Pyrenees Mountains, just following her dreams. So absolutely inspiring stuff. Everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. So please do go and check out the website. Just want to do a couple of shout outs to amazing patrons. So the patrons are the incredible financial supporters of the podcast who allow me to produce this content and share it on a regular basis. And this is done through a platform called Patreon, patreon.com/toughgirlpodcast. And you can sign up as a patron as well, either a monthly member or an annual member. Just want to welcome along two new patrons, the lovely Sheila. Sheila, thank you so much for signing up as a patron and becoming a member. It really does make the world of difference having you on board, which is absolutely awesome. Also, just want to give a shout out to Poppy as well. Poppy, thank you so much as well for signing up as a patron and for getting involved and paying it forward. Big shout out as well to Jim. Jim has been a long-term supporter of the Tough Girl podcast. Jim, just wanted to say thank you so much again for supporting the work that I do on an annual basis, and for helping to allow me to increase the amount of female role models in the media. It really does make a massive difference. So big shout out to Sheila, Poppy and to Jim. Really do appreciate all of your support. We are now in March, the third month of the year. I don't know where the time has gone. I have done a little Patreons update. So if you're a patron, go and check that out. And if you're a member of the Tough Girl tribe, I've done a little update in there as well. I've also shared a habit tracker, which might be of interest if you're struggling with sort of those daily habits. And I know that I can sometimes fall off the wagon. Sometimes it's with the little things. So for me, I want to make sure that I'm reading, I'm doing my stretches, I'm taking my supplements, I'm doing my push-ups. So I have a habit tracker that I can print out, and I fill in my habits that I want to focus on during the month. And then each day I just color it in. So that is available for you, patrons and members of the Tough Girl Tribe, for you to download your own habit tracker as well. That's just one of the methods that I use to keep on top of the things that I want to work on over the month. Thank you again for listening to the Tough Girl podcast. I really do appreciate it. And all that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.